you have to kind of take into effect as far as what that's going to require more than just buying the Dogecoin or simply holding. You're talking about potentially dethroning Bitcoin and dethroning the dollar. Like, that's going to take mass acceptance, and it's not a quick process. Welcome back, YouTube. So I'm getting a lot of questions pertaining to Dogecoin, AMC, and the new inflation numbers that just came out. So I'm going to address all of those in this video. Now I'm going to start with inflation, work my way into Dogecoin, and then wrap up with AMC. So just bear with me because I don't know how long this video is going to be, because I'm technically going to cover 3 topics, but let's just get into it. So with inflation, as far as the new numbers coming out, that is very alarming. We have been technically increasing every month since the beginning of the year, and we're actually outpacing the suggested or the expected inflation rate. Now, when this pertains to investing or just the quality of life in general, that typically puts fear into the markets, because when you have the threat of inflation or even this being out of control into hyperinflation, technically that means that, you know, the dollar is going the opposite way, and typically what that does is it sends people into like a preservation mode, which pretty much will lead to like stalling the economy or people pulling money out of assets so that they can have access to it before we see like a sharp decline. So all of this in a nutshell is actually very negative, and it's very threatening as far as we're sending the markets into like a downtrend or furthering the blow as far as we're sending us into like a bear market. I'm definitely watching the inflation rate, and I'm going to see as far as for this, keep track as far as like the new numbers that come out, but I haven't made any hardcore like adjustments to any of my like portfolios or like my outlooks. But certainly if this continues at this rate, I'm certainly going to move some assets around, and typically because you kind of want to hedge against inflation. So what we want to see here is the government like restrict like some money and get the inflation rate under control, because if we're increasing month over month, this pretty much just means that we have runaway inflation, and that's certainly going to send a panic throughout the markets. And what you don't want is, you know, obviously the money to be pulled out of the markets, or we go into a bear run and then you lose, or go into a bear market and you lose the overall value of your assets, and then you have inflation chipping away at it as well. So it's kind of like a double whammy. So I haven't made any adjustments yet, but I'm watching very closely. As far as, because I got a lot of questions saying, is inflation, is that kind of like hurting Dogecoin or something like that? I don't believe so. It's possible, but Dogecoin, and as well as the entire crypto market, because I hate when people isolate Dogecoin, but they're in a downtrend right now, or you can say like a bear market or a correction, whatever the case you may be. And there's going to be, it will take something incredible to turn that around outside of the market shifting around or institutional money coming in and starting another rally. Like I say this often, but these typically last, these can last up to 10 months. And it's a very like painful time. I know people are impatient, but you can't reach for certain things and be like, oh, okay, well, inflation is the reason Dogecoin's down, or Dogecoin just dropped back into the teens. Look at the other cryptos. Most of them are down and they're declining. I think Bitcoin's down like $1,000 or something today. All of them are in the red. Like, do not stress yourselves by tracking Dogecoin and just, you know, isolating your focus on Dogecoin and comparing it to pretty much like your patience level, really, because if you're comparing it to the market, then you'd see that there's nothing to be worried about right now. These markets, as far as for timing and when things turn around, you know, they're going to do what they're going to do, and they take how long they take. Like there's periods where it lasts 4 or 5 months, 6 months, 10 months, and they stay down, they reach their consolidation level, and they bounce around. That's one of the reasons, and even in my early videos, I reached out to everyone as far as for like in my post, in my emails, my email group, and in my videos, and I started telling everybody the correction is 50 to 80%. And I wanted to prepare as many people as possible, because I know what that feels like as far as to be in the red, whether you're day trading or any kind of investment. I know how, if it drags on for weeks or for months or whatnot, I know what that can be to look at it. And, you know, if you're not careful, you'll stress yourself out. This is when I'm in the red with any investment. What I typically do, especially if I'm long term, is I'm going to average down. And I know I've mentioned this before, but I think that a lot of people are not getting it. When you average down, you're bringing your DCA down, and you're pretty much going to be able to turn a profit like a lot easier, even if you wanted to. And you would do this even if you wanted to exit your position. So because I don't believe in necessarily like selling at a loss or anything like that. So if your DCA is 40 cents or whatnot and it's hovering around 35 cents or 30 cents, I'd buy more into it so I can allow myself to give myself room to exit. Even if I can't get it down to 30 cents, I can get it down so that on a spike I can exit without losing money. And you've seen like these trends as far as for how long Dogecoin takes to, like, as far as to rise, or how long Bitcoin takes to rise, Ethereum. You can compare this and see the numbers. They're different peaks and different valleys, but you'll see a lot of familiarities. And the common goal in between all of them is, well, the common factor in between all of them is that they have their downtrends and they have their different consolidation points, and they hit those and they bounce. Dogecoin has not done anything that is abnormal. It is literally the best performing asset of the year till this date, and it's still within that 50 to 80% window historically. I told you guys, 36 cents as a high and 14 cents as a low. It has not broken the floor on that window. It hasn't done anything abnormal to cause panic. And I think that what we as a community has to do, and we say things like diamond hands, or we're long Dogecoin, or Dogecoin is going to be the cryptocurrency of the future, we have to kind of know that, because like even outside of diamond hands and just holding, but when you say something's going to be the currency of the internet, you have to kind of take into effect as far as, well, that's going to require more than just buying the Dogecoin or simply holding. You're talking about potentially dethroning Bitcoin and dethroning the dollar. Like, that's going to take mass acceptance, and it's not a quick process. So you kind of have to factor those things in there before you get depressed because there's a correction or there's a pullback. This isn't the first pullback of Dogecoin. It won't be the last one. This will happen again. Like, as long as Dogecoin's around, we're going to have these corrections. So when you say that you're long in something, you just kind of need to prepare for these. And when you are in the correction period, if you're looking to take profits on the next uptrend, then you certainly need to be averaging down and increasing your coin position. Otherwise, if you're there, I suggest you wait until the market turns around and don't sell at a loss. You guys know that I am fundamentals. I look at the markets, and I make in the charts, and I make my predictions, or I communicate my feelings as far as for what I'm seeing in the markets and what I think based off of history. I don't put out videos to like hype you or anything like that. That's why I don't upload every day. But if I saw something that was alarming, or that Dogecoin broke any of the historic ranges or something like that, I would certainly be communicating with that. And as of right now, Dogecoin has not done anything to indicate to me that there's something wrong with it, or that it's going to like crash to like a historic low or whatnot. The entire market's in a pullback. It's still in that 50 to 80% range, just like all the other cryptos. So as of right now, I see no reason to panic. AMC. I've spoken about AMC on pretty much the same places I speak about Dogecoin, which is on all of my platforms. And what I try to get people to understand is, you look at the fundamentals, because the numbers are being heavily manipulated. And when you track things like the turnover rate and inflow and outflow, and actually look at the business compared to the numbers that you're seeing, and try and make sense of it. And I have done this for weeks and for months, and it's the reason why I continue to buy more, is because the numbers don't make sense. And when you're going out of your way to manipulate a stock like that, that lets me know that I'm onto something, and that you are really trying to shake me out of this stock. And the more you want me out, the more I want in. Let's eliminate the fact that this year AMC entered the market at, I think in January 1st, of like $1.91. Let's take that completely out. But let's look at from the peak until where we are right now. What has changed fundamentally about AMC? Now, if you have the retail investors owning 80% of the float at least, and let's say institutions own another 10 to 15 or 20%, whatever the case may be. But I believe it's like 10. But let's say you own 10 and you have a free range of like 10 that's like floating around. And the price of the share goes from 72 down to, I think, like 35 where we are now. What has changed fundamentally about the business? So because we know that the community in itself is holding, and not only are they holding, but they're increasing their position. AMC as a company is doing 9 figures every weekend now. Like concessions, movies, they're breaking records, they're celebrating, like income is just flowing in and the stock is going down. Even when you look at like the tickers and you look at the inflow versus the outflow, inflow is beating outflow and the stock is going down. Our turnover rates, like I've seen our turnover rates like 5-10% and the stock goes down. And when you see things like this, I say, if you have 80% of the people that are held by retailers, and not only are we holding, but we're increasing our positions, and how do you cut a stock by 50% or 60% off of its high when you only have 10-20% max of the shares to do that? Where are these shares coming from? Like if I'm not selling, and if I'm not selling and the company is having absolutely nothing but good news, how are you cutting the price of the stock down? And I think that's what people need to ask themselves before they panic. Before you look at a share and be like, oh my God, it went from 72 to 35. Ask yourself how, if the community is holding, and you can verify that with turnover rates and inflow and outflow, the low volume, like, you know, people are holding. If you can verify that and look at the company in itself and say, wow, it's actually bringing in money, it's doing well, how is this stock losing value? And I think when you like take that into account, you'll know that there's mass manipulation here, and there's a very strong reason as to why this stock is being pushed down, no matter what. No matter how many people are holding, no matter how many stocks we buy, no matter how well the company does, the stock is going down and it's getting pushed down in its range. And when you say that, you say, wow, how can a company do over $1 billion in 2 weeks coming from virtually no revenue? How can people be buying the stock and holding it and it has no positive effect on the actual value of the stock? And because sometimes you don't have to, because charts the manipulation is so high in AMC, like charts are pretty much useless right now. But when you look at like the fundamentals and use some common sense, you'll see that the manipulation is there. You can see the dark pooling as far as kicking the shares back and forth. We know there's no other way this is even possible without shorting and borrowing shares. So that goes without explaining that this is happening. But fundamentally speaking, you know that there are synthetic shares, because you cannot cut the price of the stock down if without borrowing shares that are not yours. So you're gonna have to return those, and without controlling most of the flow. You can't cut a stock by 60% plus with 10% of the stocks. When I see that, that's why I buy more. That's why I double down, triple down, quadruple down, because they're playing this game to try and get you out of the shares when none of the numbers make sense. If the numbers made sense, like you can't necessarily use volume to track anything, because you can obviously just sell back and forth between each other to increase volume, or if it's low, you'll know that people aren't selling. But so you can manipulate volume a little bit, but until the fundamentals change as far as for who owns the float, until like AMC was like, because if we only own like 20% of the float, and AMC, the movies came out and people were like, I'm still scared of the corona, I don't want to go out, we're going to stream Netflix and stuff like that, I can understand, okay, now I see how this can like hurt the price of the stock, and people are like, okay, the company's not doing well, it's probably not going to survive, I'm going to pull my money out. I can understand that. But you cannot have a company that's breaking records, doing far better than anyone expected, hosting fights, doing 400 million plus like the first week or two with Fast and Furious 9. Black Widow did like 100 million. Like, you can't have this kind of positive news and it not only have no positive effect on the stock, but it only has the stock goes down, so it has a negative effect. To me, that's ludicrous. I think that what we're seeing here is possibly going to be one of the greatest wealth transfers in the history of the stock market, probably in the history of the country. This is going to be absolute madness, what we're seeing here. And the fact that they continue to do this lets me know the magnitude. I started buying AMC when it was under $10, and if I would have known that in July going toward August we would have still been here as far as for and the level that they would have went to, I would have quadrupled my position even back then. Ultimately, I believe outside of the financial possibility, as far as for, especially if we work together and we don't turn over the float to them, outside of the financial possibility of AMC, I believe this is great for even like the retail traders, because pretty much that's what Wall Street calls us. The retail pretty much just means amateur, not professional traders. And I believe that this is going to have an immense positive effect on us, because I believe that the community as a whole, they're literally getting years of experience in a few months. And I believe that what they're doing here by battling retailers and trying to manipulate the markets, and I don't know what the SEC is doing right now, they're turning a blind eye to everything, but what they're doing is, I believe they're creating a monster for the market to come. I believe that the dynamics of Wall Street, not just of Citadel and this whole AMC situation, but I believe the dynamics of Wall Street are about to change forever. And I believe that the community, because everybody out here, the problem is everyone's doing research, everyone's learning, because everyone's so heavily invested. They're researching consistently about their investments and learning tactics and learning options, swing trades, butterflies, like just pretty much learning everything that they didn't know. This is the greatest push for new investors in the stock market, I believe, ever. It started last year with the pandemic, and now it's only increasing, and everybody's doubling down on learning their learning procedures and how to invest. I believe this is going to have a negative impact on the way Wall Street does business, and it's going to pretty much change things for the better of the country. AMC, I am still in. I am actively increasing my position, because at this point we're all buying synthetic shares, to be honest with you. So at this point, I believe that, as far as for increasing your position, especially if they're going to keep dropping the price, because I don't care if they drop it at $10, I'm averaging down. So you can't convince me that no one's selling and the company's doing well and the price drops by 5/6 of a, like, come on, like, you are not going to convince me of that. I'm averaging down. I don't care if they send this thing to $10. I am buying. Dogecoin, again, I am increasing my position there. I do believe that after this AMC, I don't believe that Dogecoin retracted in price completely because of AMC, but I know it had an effect on it. I talked about that before. So I do expect a rally. I'm not saying that it'll break its all-time high, but I do believe that Dogecoin will get a rally after this situation is over with AMC. So I'm certainly holding my position in there, and I'm definitely still buying Dogecoin as well. And I will certainly put a bunch more money in as well as the AMC situation comes to a close at whenever they decide to give up or they run out of money, whichever one. And with the inflation, again, I'm tracking that, but I have made no adjustments so far. So I hope you found this video insightful, and that's where I'm at right now. If you're looking for a new brokerage, I recommend Webull. And as of right now, if you only have to deposit $5 and you can get two free stocks valued at up to $1,200. And that's a special that they're running through the end of July. I'll have the link into Webull in my description. If you want to be a part of my email list, you can join that as well. I have a link for that in my description, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Those links are in my description. My Twitter is JR David Mitchell, and my Instagram is I am David Mitchell Jr. I appreciate all of you, and if you haven't yet, of course, like the video, subscribe, continue sharing. I just posted the numbers as far as for last month. Over 250,000 views, over 1.1 million minutes watched, and almost 6,000 subscribers. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you. And until next time.